So welcome to Shape Up Shenanigan's very first vlog interview. I'm here with Nicole Heckman, one of the founders of Nourishe. I found out about Nourishe through Facebook. Her husband Cameron and I went to high school together, and he shared her page whenever they first started, and I was just thought it was so exciting. I liked it immediately, even though I had never met Nicole. So we just met right now on our Skype video. So it's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
From what I gather, seeing Cameron's posts and the information on Nourishe, that you guys you try to eat paleo.
We do. We follow primarily a paleo diet. Are you familiar with that?
I am a little bit, and I have some questions about it because I'm a vegetarian. So what I've learned is totally not very compatible with a vegetarian diet. So tell me a little bit about how did you guys get started in the paleo and eating paleo and then just the fitness lifestyle?
Sure. Well, why don't I start off with a little bit of what it is, just to give everybody some context.
Definitely.
So paleo is a style of eating. I wouldn't really call it a diet. Some people embrace it as a diet, but it really, in my mind, it's not a temporary thing. It's a lifestyle. And it's about trying to eat whole foods and less refined and no chemicals, no preservatives, eating as natural as possible. And the controversial part that a lot of people kind of shake their head at is the fact that it includes not eating any grains. And then for someone who's strict paleo, no dairy.
Yes.
So that means eating a diet that's rich in vegetables, some fruits, meat, seafood, seeds, nuts, and oils and fats.
Okay.
And so that really makes up the bulk of the paleo diet. Now, there are people that eat dairy. I do tend to tolerate dairy okay. So you would say that I eat more of a primal lifestyle. I don't drink milk, but I will have some small amounts of cheese and things. And so that kind of falls into the primal way of eating. And the only distinction there is there's a strong movement towards eating raw dairy versus pasteurized dairy when it's available to you because of the nutrient difference. And so a lot of people who eat primal also try and seek out raw dairy when they can.
Yeah, and I actually watched a documentary, I can't remember which one it is, but it's hard to get some raw dairy.
Mm-hmm.
And we won't go into that. I'm sure we could talk for hours. But yeah, I've learned that that's a difficult thing to come across. So now I'm a vegetarian, but I eat eggs, and I love eggs. And when I was looking into the paleo, we get a lot of our protein from beans. Because like you guys, we try not to eat a lot of processed foods, very minimal on our processed. And our dairy, I kind of am that person that doesn't really like to lump eggs in as a dairy because it's not really milk. But so I'll eat local eggs, but we do get some cheese, like cottage cheese and some block cheese every now and then, but we don't do milk. So that's me. But for the paleo, how long have you guys been eating this paleo style?
So we're actually coming up on over 2 years,
Nice.
between 2 and 3 years. I would say I think it's a life change that's going to stick at this point. And you're talking to somebody who's been through many styles of eating over the years. I have done Weight Watchers. I, for years, was one of those people who would look at anyone doing an Atkins diet and say, "You're going to die!" Because it just seems so counterculture, right? That you could eat fat and you could eat, a higher fat and a higher protein diet and not eat as many carbs and still be healthy.
Yeah.
So I know for me it was really it was a whole new way of thinking, and it was not easy to actually embrace at first. I was very worried that I was going to be hurting my health.
So what are some of the physical changes that you noticed, just like within yourself and inwardly and outwardly, physically, as you made that transition?
So I got into paleo by starting CrossFit. That tends to be a common pathway for people, the cult of CrossFit, and I mean that in the best sense of the word. CrossFit has a very strong community associated with it. It also tends to recommend a paleo way of eating. So some people do paleo and zone together, which means, having certain percentages of your carbs, your fats, and your proteins. My gym was just of the paleo elk. And so Cameron and I, my husband, we decided to give it a try. And we said, you know what, we're going to do this for 6 months and we're going to see how we feel. And if we think that we're moving in the right direction, then hey, we'll stick with it. But hey, we're not going to kill ourselves in 6 months.
Yeah.
So we started down that path. And to me, that was really freeing to be able to say I'm going to do it for 6 months because it went so counterculture to everything I believed about nutrition. And I lost 30 pounds within the first couple of months. And then my physical abilities dramatically increased. So one of the most noticeable things is that I had had joint pain in my knees on a fairly regular basis. And I had some other joint pains, but mostly in my knees. To the point where I'd be sitting in a meeting and it would all of a sudden just kind of clench down, and I'd have to be very careful not to let my face show that I was in a lot of pain. And when I went to the doctor, they said, well, you must have early onset rheumatoid arthritis.
Oh.
And I'm in my 20s at this point. And I kind of just brushed it off. I didn't really know what to do about it. And when I started eating paleo, almost immediately my joint pain went away. Because what I found is that I actually have a gluten intolerance.
Yes.
And a lot more people have that than realize it. And you usually don't know until you eliminate it from your diet. And then when you reintroduce it, you're like, oh, I don't feel so good.
Yes.
And I actually had a multitude of symptoms I didn't know were attributable to gluten in my diet.
Yeah, we're starting to try to limit our gluten. And my husband actually he's recently started cooking. And when I say recently, I mean past year and a half or so. I was just graduated from graduate school. So that last year of those 2 years, he's like, okay, we got it. Because it went from like me cooking pretty regularly to me never cooking because I was an hour away majority of my life.
Oh, wow.
So his mom is an avid raw foodist and vegan. And I used to do raw food classes. So we had a bunch of books. So she gave him a soup book. So now that's his forte. He makes soups. And he just started making banana bread. And so the first one was really dry. And then the second one seemed even more dry. And I was looking at the recipe and it occurred to me he didn't use enough bananas. But he made this third batch and it's just amazing. But it's gluten-free.
Oh, yum.
So I just added a little more banana to make it more moist.
Mm-hmm.
And, but we're trying to get more into that. We have books on it because we want to try and limit our gluten. I have a feeling my oldest son's probably allergic. He's allergic to dairy and the sense of the proteins. And we kind of want to get cleaner. So kind of off topic, but kind of funny as well. My oldest boys are in high school band, and last 2 weeks ago we made both bands PB&Js, turkey and cheese, just sandwiches, sack dinners. Not very healthy. Well, apparently one of the children from the away team was allergic to gluten, and we didn't have an option for him. We had an option for vegetarians, for those who didn't eat pork, and other things. And so this coming week, we're actually doing this again, and I'm like, well, I have recipes for gluten-free bread. I'll bake some. So it's really neat to learn all the things that can improve your diet. And I think we watched The Perfect Human Diet, and it really kind of made us question a little bit us being vegetarians, but we're very strong. Our beliefs are very strong about it, and just factory farming gets to us a lot. And we looked into it, and even one of the gentlemen on there, I forget his name, said that you can do it as a vegetarian. It's just really hard. And with
Yeah.
3 children, two teenage boys and 11-year-old. We haven't figured it out yet. So we're doing our best to keep it clean and introduce some new proteins to our diet and stuff. But for you, what would you say? Like, give us an idea of a day in the in the life of
In the
someone who
life?
eats paleo. Yeah, their
Sure.
food in your food life.
It's so funny you say this because when I started eating this way, I had a lot of people who said, "Oh my God, you don't eat grains? What do you eat?" As if like there was nothing else in the world. I'm sure people say this to you, like, "Oh my God, you're a vegetarian. What do you eat?"
Yeah, where do you get your
As if there's
protein?
nothing else in the world. And so I actually started posting pictures of what we eat on my Facebook page, on my personal Facebook page, so that I could share with everybody. I think my food looks pretty darn good,
And it does. Yeah, you would tag Cameron in it, and I'd be like, I want to go eat dinner at their house. They were great looking. I was like, I love that stuff. So it worked.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear it. So a typical day for us would usually start out with eggs. We may or may not have a bacon or sausage. To us, it is important to eat a very high food quality, especially meat quality. So that would be, a no nitrate, uncured bacon, or sausage that has no sugar and no additives, and it actually comes from a local farm
Oh,
that we get it from. So we try and be very conscious of that. And then the eggs typically have a number of vegetables scrambled in. So maybe some spinach, some tomatoes, some basil from our garden. Um, what else? Basically, whatever vegetables we have on hand are fair game. So Cameron is the experimental cook. So I can never quite be sure what's going to be in the food. When he's actually making dinner right now, which is so nice of him. But I'm not quite sure what's going to be on the plate. So we have eggs, and then oftentimes some other meat, and then half an avocado,
oh, I love
or we'll do half of a grapefruit, just to kind of round things out. We do both drink coffee. I drink it black, and that I moved to that because I used to put Splenda and milk in my coffee and used to do lattes, and I just said, you know what, if I'm going to drink it, I'm just going to drink it black. So that's breakfast. And then for lunch, it's usually leftovers from the night before. So our strategy is cook more than we need so that we actually have food for the upcoming days. We both work, we're both really busy, so the more we can plan ahead, I'd say that's crucial to our success, to staying on plan. There's nothing worse than it's, 7 o'clock at night, you're starving and there's no plan and nothing even on the horizon, and you're like, well, we're going to go out to eat.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
sure with kids, especially.
perfect. My husband's cooking too. He just made some, what was it, babe? Carrot soup.
Oh,
So he had
yum.
to show it to me while I'm talking.
Have you ever done pureed carrots with ginger and butter?
Ooh, that sounds amazing. Just
They're
not in soup
so
form, just
good.
in steamed and pureed.
So we'll use the pressure cooker to make it go fast. It's like 4 minutes. And
We
then you just
love.
mash them. Or if you have we have a Vitamix, but if you have that or a blender or something, toss them in there with like a teaspoon of ginger and a tablespoon of butter and some salt.
Nice. Yeah. Hey,
So
Jared,
good.
can you hear this? You can hear her? Okay, I can hear. I wonder. I wonder if what I have on my head is even functioning. But yeah, we have a pressure cooker. He got into it. I barely know how to use it because he does ever since my second half of grad school. He's been doing soups, so I'm like, go for it, babe. And but yeah,
Yeah.
he loves ginger. And I don't have a Vitamix. I have a oh gosh,
Blendtec?
yes, the Blendtec, and I've had it for years. At least I'm trying to think, at least 10 years. I think I got it when my youngest was an infant. So, and it's been going strong. I love it.
Wow.
So, I like it mainly because it has the bigger bottom. And I'm holding my hands up,
Yeah,
you can't
that
see.
would have been nice, but
But
I do love my
the
Vitamix.
Vitamix has that
That tamper.
it comes in so handy too.
Mm-hmm.
But
So we
Yeah.
do have to get back on topic, I know, but I
Yes.
was going to tell you there's another great soup, celery almond soup.
Oh, nice.
So I usually make it with chicken broth, but you could use vegetable broth. You
Mm-hmm.
basically just take like 6 stalks of celery, cut them in half, put them in a stock pot with, it's like a couple cups of vegetable broth, and you let it simmer for about 7 minutes. And then you take some slivered almonds or just blanched, really, just have the skins off, a
Yeah.
quarter cup, and you put all that in your blender. And since you have a blend tech, you can make this. And you just mix all that up, and it is amazingly good. You would think it's a cream soup, and it has no cream in it.
Oh, that sounds amazing. And yeah, I used to make almond milk, and when my youngest stopped nursing, the only milk he would drink would be like the almond milk I made. He didn't like the rice milk, and he didn't like soy milk. He didn't so, and they didn't have almond milk in the stores then, so I made it, and he loved it. Um,
Well, and it's healthier than what you can buy in the
oh,
stores.
definitely, I know. And I still like making it, but I've become so busy. Even since finishing school, now I'm in my new job, and so, and then teenagers are so much more hectic than toddlers.
Yeah,
Toddlers, you can wrangle them. Teenagers actually have to go out into the world. So,
they have
um,
activities.
yes, they do. Luckily, they're two in the same activity.
Well, that's
But
good.
so then,
Um,
so you have your leftovers. You would have
mhm.
leftovers, and then at night you just,
And then for dinner, so we typically have a meat of some kind, and we try and really experiment. Obviously, beef and chicken and pork are kind of the mainstays. But one of the things the paleo diet does emphasize is some more non traditional meats. So bison, elk, wild game, basically,
yeah.
as well as really exploring the whole poultry spectrum. And then seafood, obviously, is so, so, so good for you from an omega-3 standpoint. So we typically have some sort of a meat or seafood and then 2 vegetables that go with it. So where, there would typically be grain, there's another vegetable.
Okay, yeah.
And that could be a whole salad, or that's some lightly steamed kale, some roasted Brussels sprouts, you name it. We belong to our local CSA, so occasionally we get things we've never seen before.
Those are always fun to get
Yes,
that.
but that's a good way to try new things.
Yeah, our a friend of mine was in a local just food co-op. There was just vegetables, and you never really knew. It was like you put in your request for whatever, and they basically took whatever the biggest amount was, and then if there were new items, so you never really knew what you were gonna get. And I
Yeah.
loved seeing her like goodies, and she'd always share them with me 'cause she'd always have extras. So, but let's see what else we have.
We end up with, more tomatoes than we could possibly eat, or cucumbers. So now I'm experimenting with pickling and canning. That's my new
Oh.
fun activity.
Yeah, my mom used to do it a lot. I used to um, do it some when the kids were younger, and I was a stay-at-home mom. And I did it as a child and a teenager with my aunt and my mom. And my mom still does it. She'll have a garden and make salsa. She puts mangoes in her salsa, and it's just one of the fruits I don't
Mm-hmm.
like. I know
Yum.
a lot of people do, and I'm just like, I can't. Not in my salsa. I do it in my smoothie. But um, so if if you had any tips to give someone that was considering starting the paleo, what would you give them? What would you tell them as new paleo adventurers?
Sure. So, I guess the first thing is don't be intimidated. It's actually a super supportive community of people, and it's growing. So, it's not that unusual anymore. You'll find more and more people have at least tried it or want to try it. I would say commit for 30 days to be truly strict paleo. And there is a difference, but really commit to the best food quality you can afford, cutting out all grains, cutting out all dairy, cutting out legumes. And the reason for that is after 30 days, if you want, you could reintroduce some of these foods like dairy, and see how your body reacts. But you need to kind of give your body a break from consuming those foods in order to see how reintroducing them affects you.
Yes. Makes
So I
total
would
sense.
say go ahead and commit to being strict, because that's also how you're going to see the most benefit, whether you're looking for weight loss or health improvement. I can't tell you how many people I talk to every Saturday at our farmers market, because we sell our products at our local farmers market, and they have MS or they have another autoimmune condition. And by going at a minimum gluten-free, if not paleo, they've seen dramatic improvement.
Yes.
And so if you're really looking to see if you're going to get that improvement, then you've got to commit. And then beyond that, I would say search online, because there are a wealth of resources. There's so many blogs with great advice, great recipes. Even on our website, we have a blog. We post recipes. We've got tips for meal planning. People really want to share in this space. And so that is a really good way to get started.
Yeah, and I'm going to post y'all's website everyone will be able to see below the video, but it's www.nourishe.me. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and the spelling
Yeah.
for Nourish will be posted, so it's Nourishe.
Yes,
Correct.
very good. Yes.
So,
In this world of URLs and bidding and all that, it was a URL we liked that was also available.
yeah, which is hard to find these days.
It
You
is.
come
It
up with
really
new
is.
words, like Google. Okay, so how does factory farming play a role in your ability to get good quality meats? Do you have sacrifices that you make, or in the beginning did you know a lot about the factory farm industry and the quality that they produce, or how does that come
So,
about?
wow, I could talk about that for hours. Before I went paleo, I was very exposed to the industrial food system, a la, the documentary Food Inc. was
Mm-hmm.
probably one of the first that I watched. And I guess I like to live in a state of righteous indignation. So I'm always seeking out, this kind of information. And poor Cameron, I'm like, look at this, read this, look at this video.
That's my
So,
husband to me, and I'm like, okay.
so it's always been important to me. I don't know that I made as many decisions based on that knowledge as I do now. Paleo and a return to more sustainable, humane, if you want, farming really go hand in hand, because people who eat paleo tend to also feel very strongly about procuring grass-fed meat. And you may know this already, but the nutritional profile of conventionally or industrially raised beef is completely different than grass-fed beef.
Yes.
And they are herbivores. They are meant to eat grass. They are not meant to eat what we feed them in the industrial system.
Yeah.
So if you look at even within they have less fat, first of all, if they're grass-fed, less saturated fat, and within that fat, the composition of it is much healthier for your body than, in a conventional system.
Definitely.
I actually, this past weekend, I was in Virginia at an event called Save Your Bacon, and funny
super
name.
Cute.
Yeah, they had something called Bacon Palooza at one point. It was this bacon cook-off. But the first day of the event was held at Polyface Farms,
Okay.
which, if you've seen Food Inc., Joel Salatin and his farm are featured in it. He's become a bit of a food celeb within the farm movement.
Definitely.
And so we got to tour his farm and see how he treats the animals and how he rotates the animals to really take us back to the natural balance of things.
Yes.
And one quick example is he'll let his cows graze in a particular paddy for a day. And then the next day or later that day, they get moved to a fresh patty or salad bowl, as he calls it.
Yeah.
You get a fresh salad bowl. Well, behind the cows, he brings in chickens.
Yep.
Because insects and larvae and all that stuff is attracted to the cow manure. And so they're taking hold in the cow manure, and then the chickens come in and they eat all of those little insects. They pick them all out. And as it turns out, the cow manure has 7 enzymes in it that are beneficial for the chicken's digestion.
Mhm.
And they've got those claws. Well, those claws, as they're digging through the manure, actually mix up the soil and the manure. And so it's breaking the manure down into compost that much faster and fertilizing the land. So he's never used a chemical fertilizer, never, any of that stuff on his land. And it's unbelievably verdant. It's just so green. And so to see someone who puts that kind of care
Definitely.
into how they raise animals is refreshing.
Yes, I love watching him he's on a couple of documentaries, and I love
He's going to be
watching
in a
him.
new one, actually. We got to see a sneak peek of another one called American Meat,
Oh,
which I thought was really good. And since we're on this topic, I do have to share. So while I was there, I bought his book. It just happened, I was reading it, so it just happens to be sitting here.
oh,
It's
nice.
called Folks, This Ain't Normal. And what's interesting to me about it is he talks about vegetarianism and how if there wasn't an alternative to the industrial food system, he probably would be a vegetarian.
Yeah, and understandably.
Um, so, all that to say, I think we're living at a really interesting time in that there are actually farmers near Memphis, which is where I live, that follow his practices.
Oh, fun.
And it took a little work, but I was able to find a farm that actually participates in one of our farmers markets where I could buy a quarter of a cow. I could go in with, 3 other couples, and we could go in on a cow, the same thing on a hog that was raised through forage. So it, got to roam and eat what it's supposed to eat. And not only could I then be assured of the quality of, it was raised the right way, it was raised humanely. For the life that it had a good life,
Yeah.
and it was also slaughtered humanely. And then the price to me is just dramatically different from what you would pay in the grocery store.
And
Now,
that
you're
I
going
don't know anything about.
to So, when you asked about compromises, I would say the biggest compromise is to my wallet, right? Because since this way of raising animals is not the way that is subsidized by the government,
Yes.
it is much more costly. And so, if someone is looking to really watch where they're spending their money when it comes to food, if they've got a freezer, or if they can get a freezer and go in on, a quarter of a cow or a quarter of a pig, you're going to pay like half of what you pay at the grocery store.
Oh, okay. So it
You're
comes.
going
My great grandfather used to do that. He would buy a local cow from someone he knew around here, and he would buy like half a cow and store it out in his freezer in his garage. And
to.
I remember when a hurricane came through, was it 15, 16 years ago? That was the first thing. We're like, we got to eat this cow. And we're really lucky now. We have a local farm here that does grass-fed beef. We don't eat it, but they do butter. So we get grass-fed butter. We get the grass-fed cheeses. And so we don't buy very often. But my husband drinks this coffee called, I don't know if you've heard, Bulletproof coffee.
Yep, it's a paleo offshoot.
Yep, we get that single source coffee, and we get the grass fed. We did get ghee for a while because we didn't know where to find some grass fed, and I know we know one of the ladies from the local Hindu farm, so we knew that it was a grass fed cow, and they made their ghee. So we used that at first, and then we found out about this local farm and got some local butter. And we have organic coconut oil that my husband puts in his bulletproof coffee. And I actually can drink that without putting sweetener in it. If I don't use the coconut oil and the butter, I end up wanting some cream and sugar in it. So I should try to drink that more. But I'm honest. I'm lazy. If there's no excuse, but I mean, and I know it. I know that about myself. So I try not to drink. If I drink coffee, I usually get like a cup a day, if even. And I usually half of it sits on my desk for half the day. So, but so all of that paleo intro to lead us to um, nourish. Sorry, I'm reading.
Either way is fine.
So
We're just happy if people are talking about us. Target, Target,
right,
Nourishe. It's all good.
all good stuff. So I want to introduce your Facebook page and your website, and you're also on Twitter,
Mhm.
correct? What's your Twitter
And
tag?
Instagram.
Wow, I'll write that down. So um, you have on your Facebook pages, you have partners. Is two other
Mhm.
partners? Is that correct?
Yeah, so the business is two couples. So it's Cameron and myself, and then Della and Richard.
Okay.
And we actually met at our CrossFit gym, and it just kind of blossomed from there.
And you guys offer, so basically they're kind of like baked goods in a sense where you offer gluten-free, grain-free, dairy-free products. And they are also free of refined sugars. Is that correct?
So they are, yes, they're baking mixes. And we specifically are doing mixes because we think that one of the biggest needs within the paleo space is for convenient foods that fit a paleo lifestyle and are also um, they taste great. They taste great, and they don't have any preservatives, no chemicals, and you can whip them up pretty quickly. So we make baking mixes for a couple of different things, and we're actually introducing some more before the end of the year. We have a chocolate ginger macadamia baking mix, which you can use for cakes or muffins, or you could do a cupcake if you wanted to frost it. And then we also have a cinnamon raisin pecan, which is fantastic with fall kind of setting in. I'm actually looking forward to experimenting with some pumpkin and doing something fun there. And then we also have we call it Richard's favorite waffle and pancake mix. Richard being one of my co-founders here, and that is a multigrain like waffle and pancake with a hint of cinnamon and nutmeg.
Yeah.
And what I like about those is that you can actually make them and freeze them. And then in the morning, you just take one out of the freezer, pop it in the toaster, and you've got a healthy Eggo. So, in the busy kid household,
Mm-hmm.
that tends to work really well.
Yeah, and a lot of people you see on Pinterest and everywhere, like, I'm going to make my meals for the week and freeze them. And you see a lot of
Yeah.
that. So, and it makes a lot of sense. And um, so, but you guys also are free of preservatives and also organic. Is that correct?
So we are not certified organic,
Okay.
but the ingredients we use are largely organic or
Okay.
certified organic. So the base of our products is organic almond flour, organic flaxseed, organic buckwheat, which is actually not a grain. It's related to rhubarb, believe it or not. And then we sweeten with a combination of organic coconut crystals and xylitol. And xylitol is a sugar alcohol. It's naturally derived from fruit and hardwood pulp.
Mm-hmm.
It comes from birch trees, often.
Yes.
And the benefit of these two sweeteners is that they have a lower glycemic response than other sugars. And your body breaks down the coconut sugar more slowly. So, Della, my other business partner, is diabetic.
Okay.
And so we are very, very careful that everything we design is meant to have the least amount of response from a blood sugar standpoint.
Oh, good. So then they
Yeah.
possibly, I'm guessing, depending on the degree of the diabetes, could be diabetic friendly food. Was that okay to
Yes.
say? Yeah?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
one of our goals. So she can eat them just fine. We still wouldn't recommend you sit down and eat the whole
The whole
box.
batch.
Yeah, the whole batch. But if you have one regular size muffin, for most diabetics, that's going to be fine.
Yeah. Which is like if you went to a birthday party Or if you were going to throw a birthday party, one cupcake, one muffin would work perfect. So how did you guys come up with this idea to like share y'all's products with everyone?
Well, it came from a couple of different sources. Della has her own inspiration in that she has 30 years of restaurant experience, and she had moved into a more corporate type job, and she'd always wanted to get back to the food industry. And, that is her first love. I also have restaurant experience, but have been in corporate America for quite a while now, and but love to cook. And so back in January, I was visiting my sister and was trying to convince her to go grain free. And I'd been working on her for a couple years, okay? And she finally said, you know what, I'll try it. I'll take the family grain free for 30 days. And she also has 3 children. 2 are teenagers and 1 is 12. So, she's got a lot on her hands.
Yes.
And very strong personalities on her hands. So we go to Trader Joe's, where she lives. They're lucky enough to have a Trader Joe's. And we go in the store, and we're looking around, and she about bursts into tears. And I look over at her, and I'm like, what's wrong? And she said, well, what do I buy that my kids are going to eat? Because nothing I'm used to buying is acceptable anymore. And, I've been doing this for a while, so I had to think back to what it was like when I first started to go grain-free and how difficult that was. And if you're trying to bake grain-free, you're going to spend a lot of money on experimenting with different flours and recipes. And so that's where the seed of an idea was born for me, is could I make some things that would help my sister and would help other people like my sister who want to give this a try but are busy working parents who don't have the time and money to sit there and figure it all out.
Yeah, and that was one of my first thoughts was, birthday cakes. I love to make my children's cakes for their birthday. It's just something that I really like to do. They're getting older, and their dad's favorite is the ice cream cakes. So, of course, they love them, too. And so it's harder for me to convince them, let me make your birthday cake. But we've made our own ice cream cakes and such. But that was one of the things. What do you bake with if you don't have flour? Regular store-bought flour. And when I saw your products, I was like, I use this stuff. I use almond flour because I do a lot of raw recipes. And a lot of them for the mock baked goods use these almond flour, coconut flour, and all this stuff, which I noticed are in your ingredients. And I'm like, I already use this stuff. So it just made me kind of excited to know that as we transition to gluten-free, I don't always have to make it myself. There's you guys out there now I'm going to order from, and I hate to say I have yet to order, but I plan on, especially the chocolate ginger macadamia. I might have to.
We're going to have to take care of that.
Yes, I'm going to have to order that probably tomorrow. So it's really, as a parent, I can see how that can become overwhelming. Because as my husband and I change our diets, we tend to change our diet first to see if it's the right thing. Because our children have been vegetarian since they were born. And as we see, okay, this is making us feel better, not worse. Okay, let's transition the family. And then so we kind of use ourselves as our experimental group and then encourage our children. When our children saw king corn, sodas became corn juice. And we never really bought sodas at home, but if we went out to eat, if it was a weekend, they were allowed to have a soda. And so it got to, this was a few years ago when they watched King Corn, we'd go out to our local Mexican restaurant, which is the cleanest we have, and they'd be like, can we have corn juice? And they meant Coke. It was kind of cute to me because even though they still wanted it and it was a treat to them, they understood what it was. It wasn't something healthy and something that you shouldn't eat all the time or drink all the time. But it was just one of those funny things to see that they are catching on. That this isn't, even though they still wanted it, because children still have that urge to want things that taste good. And it's just one of those things that I love.
You actually just made a really good point, and that's, for people who may be watching this who are like, yeah, but I still need, X baked good every now and then. I would say that most people do paleo at about an 80-20 or a 90-10 percentage.
Mm-hmm.
They do allow themselves some cheats. And I would actually say that our foods are meant as treats.
Yes.
Our chocolate ginger macadamia nut muffin is not meant for you to have 3 of them every day for breakfast, right? I mean, it's still chocolate with, some sugar in it, essentially, even though it may be a different type of sugar. But one thing, when people are choosing to cheat, they will usually stay gluten-free.
Yeah.
So if I'm gonna cheat, I might have the really fabulous house-made corn tortilla chips with guacamole at the local Mexican restaurant, which is what made me think of it.
Yeah.
Now, I'm still gonna feel it, and I don't feel great when I do that. But in my mind, it's better than if I go and eat, 6 slices of Italian bread.
Yeah. And I think those kind of, and I hate to call them cheats because I feel like I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm taking the day off, is how I say it. But my husband uses the cheat day, and I'm like, I'm not cheating. I'm taking time off. But it's those days when you do something small like that, and then maybe you don't feel great the next day, and it tasted great, but it's almost like that reminder. This is why I don't have a soda every day of the month, or even 3 times a year or whatever. And I use that because my friend and I both went soda free, and then we were like, oh, I really want one, and so we had one. And we're like, the next day just felt like crap, and we're like,
Yeah.
this is why I don't drink soda. And so it's the same thing with the chips. This is why I don't eat that processed food, because the next day I don't necessarily feel as great as I do every other day. It was nice for that moment, but now I'm over it. So I think it's a great to have those day offs and those cheat days is a great to help us remember why we are eating in a cleaner, more healthy fashion. And the temptation to not allow yourself to eat it, those cheat days and little, treats every now and then, it really, in our society, is just I think you set yourself up for failure when you don't allow that. So,
Well, I think that's a positive way of looking at it as well. It's a choice, right?
mm-hmm.
I mean, you're choosing what food you're going to put in your body. And so you should always view it as, this is a choice that I'm making, and I could make another choice. But, this is what I think is best for me.
Exactly.
And sometimes we don't make the best choices, and that's okay.
And I always like to stay there, like, even though I don't promote emotional eating, we have those comfort foods. It's like you smell in the summertime and you're like barbecue, or you smell like cake baking and stuff. It's just those reminders of when you were a child. And it's more of, instead of the emotional, I'm pissed, I'm going to eat all this food, it's more of that remembrance of a time back when you were a kid and that smell you loved. Like, one of my weaknesses is my grandmother she didn't cook very often. I lived with her in high school, and she made macaroni and cheese with sauteed onions, bell peppers, and a can of Rotel. I don't make that very often at all. But there are times, especially when I get to miss her. She's passed away a couple, 2.5 years ago. And so when I'm missing her, I'm like, I want some. So I'll get, and it's awful, Kraft box of macaroni and cheese. But and usually we get the Annie's if I can find it. And we'll get the Annie's. It's better. And that's my treat. And we have it maybe 2, maybe 3 times a year. It's not very often. And that's just one of those things. It's one of those memory comfort foods. Not that I'm eating because I don't feel good emotionally, but that I remember these days, and that, and it's more of a memory emotion. We have to take care of our emotional health too, and sometimes that cake that your great grandmother made you every year on your birthday is a comfort emotional food, and it just helps give you those good memories, like when the grass is first cut in summertime, and I definitely promote that because it's still you're making that choice, but you're not making that choice to eat that cake every day. I'm not eating
Right.
Kraft box
Right.
macaroni and cheese 12 months of every year. So
When I was in Virginia this past weekend, Joel was giving a talk at one point, and he said, "You know, we have a food diet. We all know that, but we also have a emotional diet, and we have a spiritual diet, and we have a mental diet, and you have to take care of the whole person and all those different aspects of your being to really, kind of be at your happiest self." And I
yeah,
thought, how true is that? We focus a lot on the food diet, but we don't focus very much on making sure that the other areas of our life are equally nourished.
exactly. And it's hard because we're bombarded by the media with pretty people and this diet fad and that diet fad and this exercise. We're never bombarded with the media about happy things like, hey, this is good for your spiritual, your mental health, all these different ways that we live. I mean, we have mental health. Every person does, regardless if you have an illness in the mental capacity or not. We all have that mental health we need to take care of. And unfortunately, I think in our society that it gets a lot built up on eating because we're constantly bombarded with this, especially billboards that um, will show happy people with beers in their hand, or this really skinny girl and she's eating a cupcake. And it's like those aren't realities, but where our brain and our senses are bombarded with it. They become something that we accept, and we need to realize that it's not the best thing for us, and
Well,
to make good choices. And I think that I kind of feel that there's that slow turn, paleo and the health, and I think it kind of started off slowly in the 80s with the health clubs and the aerobics. And then I think it's coming along, and you see more and more people making better choices, even if it's not diet, health wise. And I think we're getting more conscious about what we're doing with ourselves as human beings.
if I can make one more plug for Paleo. So also at this event, and I don't know if I mentioned that it was an event with Polyface Farms, but it was also paleo in nature. And so Rob Wolf was speaking, who is pretty much the leading guru within this movement. There are certainly other very well-known, very smart personalities associated with paleo, but Rob Wolf was pretty much on the forefront. He wrote the book, The Paleo Solution. And some of the things that he espouses and believes very strongly is that it's not just food, but it's also about making sure you get enough sleep. As he
Yes.
would say, go to bed when the sun comes down, when the sun goes down, and get up when it comes up. Now that's way easier said than done. I mean, as someone with children, I'm sure you know this, especially teenagers.
Yes.
I have a small business, so I'm I need sleep.
Yes.
But it's this emphasis not just on food, but on sleep, on socialization, and spending time with friends who actually fulfill you in a positive way.
Yes.
And, a CrossFit gym, whether you choose to do that or something else, what's so great about it is the community and the support structure of other people who are following a similar lifestyle.
It's so true. So true. To be able to surround yourself with like-minded individuals that are going to build you up and encourage you, even if they don't, like for CrossFit, if they don't go to CrossFit, but they support you and your choice to do that. I
Mm-hmm.
have a lot of people in my family don't necessarily support my choice to be vegetarian, but I have others that are fine with it, and they think about that when they want me to come out to eat with them. Oh, can you eat here? And they're very supportive. And we have friends that we have get-togethers, most of them won't bring me to the house. We don't mind it if they prepare it at their house and bring it, but most of them don't even ask. They just don't bring it, and it's just they support us in that way. And it's just surrounding ourselves with the people that support us, whether they do the same as us or not. It's just so much more healthy for us and our children, and
Mm-hmm.
we love that. And it's so true for everyone to do that. So, um, I don't really feel we've got off topic so much, but let's get back to Nourishe. And I know recently, a few months ago, you guys um, were offered at a local Whole Foods market. Now, is it the Whole Foods or is it a local, like, is it the nationwide Whole Foods market or is it, how's that?
Yeah, so I would say that we have been so incredibly lucky and have a lot of positive momentum. We formed our company on Valentine's Day this year. We launched at one of our local farmers markets at the beginning of April. And by July, we were in our local Whole Foods. And now that is Whole Foods Market, a la the nationwide chain.
Okay.
They're extremely supportive of local vendors and bringing them on board. So it's been a really, really great experience to get on the shelf. And you gotta admit, it's fun when you walk in the store and you see your product. They've
Right?
actually given us a big space over by their dairy aisle, which is hilarious because our mixes are dairy free.
That's
But
funny.
yeah, so we've gotten in there, and we're also in 4 other retail locations in Memphis.
Okay.
One being the Trolley Stop, which is this great, innovative restaurant which sources as much as they can locally. They actually are farmers. They own a farm. They're at all the farmers markets, and then they kind of moved upstream and said, we're going to open a restaurant and we're going to use a lot of our own produce and other farmers' produce. We're going to get our meat from local farms. And so they have a market inside their restaurant of locally made goods. And so they sell our product there. Also, a local grocery store. Through this process, you realize how many local venues there are and how important it is to support them and
Definitely.
what they're trying to do because they really strengthen the community as a
Yeah.
whole.
I think I kind of experienced a little bit of that. My brother has his own business in Destin where he makes his own sauces and jerkies and such. But I see him posting that he's in this new store over here and we're going to be at this farmer's market now and all these extra things. And so I definitely see his locally made product to Destin, Florida, getting spread around the community. And I think that's great. And just to see so many people picking up on that localness of it and the goodness. So what are I go to the New Orleans Whole Foods Market, which is about an
Mm-hmm.
hour from my house, and so what are the chances I could find you guys there sometime in the future, near or
Well,
far?
fingers crossed. So right now you can order online.
Hmm.
We have our own store. We also sell on Amazon. We also, I'm very pleased to announce, we just started a relationship with Paleo, which is an online market. They're based out of Hawaii, actually. So we've got several different online presences available, and then we're going to start working with Whole Foods to see what an expansion plan looks like.
Okay,
So it tends to be on a store by store basis
makes sense.
until you get to the point where you take on or are taken on by a distributor. So I don't know what the timing is, but I would say hopefully not too long in the future you'll be able to get it in New Orleans because you're in the same region as Memphis for Whole Foods. They have the Southeast,
Yes.
so you guys would be on the first of the list, I would say.
How exciting is that for you guys?
Very.
So, okay, well, do you have any new products that are in the works?
We do. So we actually have a sandwich thin that's coming out at the end of October. We are doing a gluten-free expo in Dallas, and we're going to be introducing that product at the expo in Dallas.
What are the dates for that? Do you have those?
The 26th and 7th, I think. It's that Saturday, Sunday
Of
of October.
Okay,
So it's either the 26th and 27th or 27th and 28th.
so just about 6 weeks away.
Yeah, and
Nice.
it's a really cool show. You've got all kinds of vendors from all over the place that are gluten free, and consumers can come and basically sample and buy and find out where to buy and just get exposure to new products. So we'll be introducing our sandwich thins there, and they're going to be just like the name implies. They'll be thinner than a traditional piece of bread, but they'll be perfect for holding a burger or actually making a sandwich. And you'll be able to make them in like a bun in a round format. See, like that.
Okay.
So we've got that. We're also working on an almond shortbread cookie, which will be available before the holidays, hopefully.
Oh,
And we have an espresso cranberry walnut baking mix.
oh, I'm sold. That sounds perfect.
And then we're working on something else, but I'm remiss to mention it because I don't know when we're going to introduce it. But we have some early trials going well, and let's just say it's probably the number one thing that we get asked for.
Oh, okay. I don't even want to guess because I like everything. So I am a foodie. I love food. And if it weren't for crocheting, I picked up crocheting. I'm a night eater. I would
Mm-hmm.
be 400 pounds because I will. It's like if I don't not doing something with my hands at night, I'm putting food in my mouth. So there's definitely a lot of things in the works for Nourish in the near future.
Yes.
Then, right? So I want to share some of the reviews that I've read on Amazon about your products. So the waffle and pancake mix, one of the customers, Peter, had stated, he says, "You do not have to be on any diet to love these. I do CrossFit and keep on a strict paleo diet that does not leave a lot of opportunity for desserts, so I was thrilled to find pancakes that don't resemble concrete mix. This is one package makes enough for the three of us. I'm guessing a family of three. I quickly learned that these pancakes take a lower heat than the pancakes of his pre-paleo days. No gluten. Gluten means I can eat these all day." So that's one satisfied customer. And I like that he mentioned about the resembling concrete because we have some
Yeah.
gluten-free recipes that we've tried that is just like, it's so heavy that it's not even enjoyable. So, and we've definitely made a lot of different pancake mixes, and some of them just, they might be healthy, but it's not
They sure don't taste
pancakes.
good. Yeah.
So, and then there was your muffin mix sampler, which it includes your cinnamon raisin and pecan, and your chocolate ginger macadamia. And these are muffin mix samples.
Mm-hmm.
And Sandy stated, she said, "We tried the chocolate ginger macadamia nut last night. The kids really liked it. We baked it in a loaf pan and sprayed with Pam. And it was a quick and easy treat and very chocolatey." And she stated, good. So, and there was one other review, and it just simply stated, "OMG, who knew that healthy could taste so great? This stuff is like heaven in a beautiful box." And so, I mean, already, and these, I actually pulled these off. There may be more. I pulled these off several weeks ago when preparing to talk with you. And so there's probably even more on there now. And these were just a few that were on the Amazon. And those were Amazon reviews. So, well, I'm so excited for you guys. It sounds like you have lots of new products coming in the next few months, and then the sky's the limit, I guess, for you guys as a new and blossoming company.
Well, thank you, and thank you for sharing those reviews. It's so nice to hear that people enjoy our products. Our face is on the box, so we take it pretty seriously. It's on the back of the box, in case anybody's curious. Our reputations are on the line here, and I just love the feeling when we get good feedback that people really enjoyed how it tasted. I mean, our goal at the end of the day is that we're making something that should taste good, and then, oh, by the way, it's gluten, grain, dairy, and soy free.
Yes, and I think that's, as my husband and I have thought about paleo, and I've mentioned it before, that was one of my things. I'm like, what about baked goods? Because I'm a girl, I like my baked goods, and I think it's just so great to find that balance, and that there are those treats out there that will still be friendly to your dieting lifestyle. And I don't like to use the diet and I'm going to lose weight, but whatever you're eating, that's your nutritional diet. So it's really nice to be able to give those options to people. And so Well, I guess that's really all we have. I understand that you are gracious enough to do a giveaway with Shape Up Shenanigans,
Absolutely.
and I will set that up, and it will be posted on the blog underneath the video. And you want to tell us a little about what you're offering?
Sure. So we know that folks would like to try our products and we want to get the word out. So what we're offering is that we're going to give away a product of your choice, of the winner's choice. And the way that you can enter for the giveaway is by liking the Shape Up Shenanigans Facebook page, as well as our Facebook page or our Twitter page. Or you can also sign up for our newsletter, which I think is going to get you some extra entries. And you do that on our website. And we send out discounts and recipes and articles that we come across that we think are helpful to people. So that'll be the giveaway. And then on top of that, just for your readers and your followers, we'd like to offer a 15% discount for folks who want to try our products. So they can go to our website and order. The discount won't work at Amazon, but it will work on our website.
Okay.
And they can just put in Shape Up, and they'll get 15% off everything they order.
Okay, great. And I'll have all of the instructions listed below our video here. And thank you so much. And I hope that everybody enjoys the interview we just had and the talk, and that, maybe the winner will let us know how they feel about the product and give us a little review in their own words, and we'll get some of the product out there. And I can't wait. I'm definitely going to order the macadamia and chocolate. It's just like, what? So thank you so much, Nicole, for talking to us today.
Thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure. I've enjoyed it, and I look forward to hearing from some of your followers.
Well, thank you. All right, guys. Well, that's all we have. This is Shape Up Shenanigans, and we'll see y'all later.